Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can all hear me okay. Welcome to the Showcase Theatre at ATM today. My name is Melanie Mingus, and I'm from BNC Publishing. We're publishers of Hotel News Middle East magazine, which there are some copies of in the theatre today. And I'll be chairing the next session, Capturing the Family Market. Please welcome to the theatre this afternoon our speakers. From Time Hotels, we have Roddy Gordon. From JA Hotels and Resorts, we have David Thompson. From Elegant Resorts, we have Anthony Challoner Cole. And from Wyndham Hotels, Ramada Downtown, we have Samir Arora. The discussion today is going to look at the family tourism market globally, which is valued at $140 billion. We're going to be asking our panelists today what they're doing to capture a greater share of this market and what Dubai can do as a destination to continue to attract family travellers. I'm very conscious that we only have 30 minutes to go through this incredibly important topic this morning, so we're going to go straight into the questions, but we will be opening it up for audience Q&A at the end of the session. So if you just bear with me for 25 minutes and then we'll open up for questions from the audience. So just going to the panel now. Globally, the family tourism market is estimated to be worth $140 billion. But what can GCC destinations do to capture a greater share of this market? Don't be shy, gentlemen.
Okay, yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, the family market is a very specific requirement in terms of what they need to make them feel comfortable in this region. Obviously, the GCC itself is a huge family piece of business. I mean, most of the GCC travelers travel with at least a minimum of 4, 6, sometimes 8 people. They come with a lot of support people as well. And it's really being able to take that into consideration. It's not just about providing rooms, but it's about being able to look after the support personnel that come with them and everything else. In terms of from a global perspective in family market, I mean, if you know, happy children, happy parents, I mean, happy life generally. I mean, and that is, I think, the most important thing. It's making sure that whatever you do, you're focused on the children, that you're able to give the parents the break that they deserve, as well as the kids the fun they want. And I think, by having the right people in place, the right support team internally in place, who are trained and educated on that, making sure your entire team is obviously trained on the importance of the family market and how it is to interact. It's a very different experience interacting with children than it is with adults. So, and making sure that everybody is on board with that. And to that end, we actually work with a company called Worldwide Kids. They actually certify everybody in our organization. So anybody who's in a guest-facing role actually has to go through training with Worldwide Kids. And then, of course, they certify, background check, and generally look after everybody that works in our creches, in our children's clubs, and in our teen areas.
Excellent. Samir?
Yeah, I mean, if you see Dubai as a destination, I think they're leading from family tourism perspective. They're already into the parks, Dubai parks, working on Legoland, Bollywood parks, the night safari. These are all the attractions, towards family tourism, and I think that's where Dubai is headed to. So I think Dubai sets the benchmark within the region, and I think that should help the family tourism going forward.
Okay, excellent. Any more input on how GCC destinations can capture a greater share of the market? Anthony?
Yeah, well, my position here is slightly different to the three co-chair people, in so much that I work for a luxury tour operator, so not individual hotels, and we've been creating bespoke luxury itineraries for couples and families alike for nearly 30 years in the UK, and we're looking to replicate that over here. So how we go about that is really understanding the client's requirements in terms of their personal preferences, the activities they like to be doing, and then we partner with hotels that we know will deliver that service on our behalf. Mm-hmm. So for us, really, it's about creating that truly bespoke itinerary. And most hotels now offer kids clubs and things like this, but I think where hotels are going to start stepping ahead of their competitors will be where they're offering things that are really relevant and local to the market that they're operating in. For example, we really like Six Senses is eBay in Oman, where there's a kids' culinary element where they're actually understanding about Arabic cooking, and they go and they harvest the ingredients from their own gardens, and then they go and they cook the local food. That's a really nice touch. It's educational, informative, and it gives the parents time on their own as well.
Okay, and Roddy?
Yeah, my sort of view on this is that I think that the hotels in the region have done a terrific job of looking after young children. I think the programs are pretty mature. We're good at looking after little children when they come into the hotels. But the market where I think there's an opportunity for us to maybe have a look at is to listen and to understand the views and the perceptions of that very interesting group of people we call teenagers. And we have been embarking, and really the focus has been on, before we think that we know what they want, let's start to ask them what they think. And what we thought that they want, we've been doing a few roundtables with a publisher, and we sat down and we brought them together and we asked some questions about their expectations of a hotel, and they absolutely, completely contradicted what we thought that they would say. So I think that the sort of lesson for us as Time Hotels moving forward is we don't want to do anything for that teenage market without listening to them really carefully. And you can't look at the 12-year-olds and the 13-year-olds and consider them in the same market as the 17 and 18-year-old, because they're fundamentally different markets. So our sort of message in terms of I guess making this into a big opportunity in the GCC is, step one is let's listen and let's really try to understand this very dynamic group of people.
Definitely, and in terms of the facilities that are available at hotels as well, there are some interesting feedback there. David, in a previous interview that we conducted a few months ago, actually said that the teenagers in a family can make or break a family holiday, and keeping them happy is an incredibly important thing. Now, in terms of the kids club and the facilities that each hotel provides, I know, J.A., you'll be doing some incredible things to kind of reinvent that idea of the place where the kids go during the daytime when the parents want some time to themselves, or maybe for evening activities and so on. And Roddy, also with Time Hotels, as you mentioned, you're putting a lot of research into this area. As hoteliers, what do you see as the key facilities that you need to provide for families in order to keep kids occupied and keep them happy?
Yeah, okay, sorry, okay. I mean, just really referring back to what Roddy said, and he's absolutely right. I mean, we actually had a thing we branded Chill Zone, which was a place where we put every single electronic item under the sun so that teenagers could go and enjoy themselves and stay out of their parents' hair. Of course, the last thing you ever want to do to a child or to a teenager particularly is tell them they've got their own special place or branded area. Big mistake. So we still have them. We've just taken the name off the door, and now, of course, the adults are in there with the kids all playing PlayStation and all the rest of it. But as you say, it wasn't what we expected at all. So, yeah. But we do make sure that we have creches in our properties, and I believe we're still one of the few that actually include a creche free of charge with our services and hotels. I think we're actually the only hotel in Dubai that still does that. But we take them through, as I say, all the way through we have educational programs, we do cooking classes, we do snorkeling programs depending on where we are. So we do a lot of things to keep the children engaged. We have our own bio garden, as many of you may know, in both the resort here in Dubai and in the Maldives. And these are just different aspects and different areas of being sort of educational, fun, and making sure that children, are not just given crayons and colouring books and this sort of thing. And it makes a huge difference. And of course, parents are much happier leaving their children in a place where they think they're actually going to get something out of it other than just playing with a cuddly toy and all the rest of it. So we really make an effort to have proper kids programs in place.
And what kind of feedback have you had from those programs so far?
Oh, excellent. I mean, when 14 years ago, I've got to say, when I sort of joined 15 years ago when I joined JA, I think the resort was fairly well known for the age of some of the people that were staying there. Particularly outside school holidays, the age went up quite dramatically. For those of you who are familiar with Saga, I think they would be quite at home in the resort. And we, saw a huge opportunity to try and get the family market because, despite popular opinion, families do travel year round. So we went out of our way to engage that, and that's made a huge difference to the resort. I mean, 70% of our business as a company is family business.
Okay, that's a really, really significant percentage. Samir, from the perspective of Ramada Hotels, what's happening then in terms of the kids club facilities that you're offering, and what kind of feedback have you received so far on that?
It's pretty much similar to what David said. We try and have two distinct groups. Anybody below 11 is sort of kids group, and then anybody beyond 12 is considered teenager. Yeah, so we have more or less same facilities, like we have the gaming rooms. We also we have certain packages in the spa which caters towards teens. Yeah, so
Okay, that's an interesting point. What kind of spa packages are teenagers demanding these days?
It's pretty much the same, but I mean, teenagers, they don't like to be treated like kids.
They want to be adults.
They want to be treated like adults.
That.
So that's pretty much. It's more or less the same, but then we just package it that way, and then it's during daytime, so that helps us sell the packages during the afternoons, which are lean times towards teens, and then we offer them some certain discounts here.
Okay. And Anthony, from the luxury perspective now, it's a very interesting kind of segment of the market that you're targeting there. So tell me what's happening.
Well, I think we're focusing very much on children here, but we've seen a big increase in multi-generational travel. So actually, I think hotels that are going to excel in true family offering are people that look after grandma and granddad, mum and dad, and the children. And it's about having facilities across the whole property that cater for that. Completely different requirements, but I mean, I think it's important to understand that families is not just always about young children and mum and dad. It can be a wider demographic.
Okay, and Roddy, very interesting perspective here from Time Hotels, because when we've been conducting these roundtables together, more than one of the teenage panelists that we had there said that the thing that actually made their summer holiday was the fact there was a water park on site. They had a water slide, I think it was maybe one or two water slides on site. They didn't have to pay additional money for it, and that basically made their holiday. And they had all their cousins there, their grandparents, the whole family. So tell me about what's happening at Time Hotels and the facilities you have and the feedback that you've had as well, because it's very interesting market research that you're conducting at the moment.
There's one in particular that we're doing next week, and it's basically around nutrition. And I've got an 18-year-old in my family, and he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, and he cooks before he leaves, and he cooks all the healthy stuff. It's the chicken, and it's kale, and it's he's telling me about buckwheat and all this business. And these guys, when they get to the gym at 18, are all looking at what each other are eating. It's almost a competition about who's going to be the healthiest. Now that is in complete contrast to when I was that age and the stuff that I was eating. And I think that it's going to be very interesting for us next week. We're going to open this up to a panel of young people and ask them how we can improve our nutrition in our hotels. And so this is under the sort of guidelines of our listening approach to try to, because every time I say to him, what about this and what about that, he tells me that I'm cheesy. So I don't want to be cheesy in our strategy, and we're going to hopefully learn a little bit from the things that are coming out. But certainly nutrition seems to be a very powerful thing from the 16 to 18-year-old bracket.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
going to be important to us moving forward.
And F&B has been mentioned a couple of times by the other panelists as well. What trends are you seeing in terms of the foods that teenagers are demanding?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, just talk from a family perspective. My wife here is here as well. So we have 6 kids. So of which 5 of them are still teenagers.
Most qualified.
So exactly. which is why JA has seen this whole change as we get older and older. As my perspective changes. But nutrition is one of the things. I mean, out of 6 of them, 3 of them are vegetarian. So and again, they're very conscious about what they eat, very conscious about how that impacts on their lives. So yeah, it's a really important thing, and I think these round tables you're doing are fantastic. I'm going to have to come and eavesdrop, but we see it firsthand. Children are far more aware are far more adult than we were at their age, if you like. Yeah. Kids seem to be growing up an awful lot faster, seem to be an awful lot more sensible than I remember being, or am now actually, judging by my foot. So I think this sort of thing is really important, and listening to what they want. We keep putting out marshmallows and chocolate dips and all the rest of it on the buffets because we're just focusing on the adults then. But because the kids are saying, I don't want any of that rubbish. We want something more sophisticated. And I think it's very true. It's a good point.
Excellent. Because there is also the element when a family goes on holiday together, it's one of the few occasions when kids can actually choose what they eat rather than it being dictated by the parents. And they do have that freedom and they want to try new things. They want to use that opportunity to kind of explore, my friends eat paleo diet or vegetarian diet, and they do maybe perhaps want to experiment with that. Samir, tell me about the F&B options you have for families, specifically children, at Ramada Hotels.
So again, going back to the teens. Kids have got the traditional kids menu, but teens again, they don't like to be given this kids menu. They're happy to have the full-fledged menu, and they choose from there. We don't have any specific, separate menus like David and John mentioned. So that's pretty much kids menu and the adults menu. That's it.
Okay, okay. And are you seeing any change in demands of the types of food, or I don't know, maybe you're seeing less red meat consumption, for example, or is there that health conscious element that you're witnessing the same as the other panelists are?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's pretty much there. Kind of exposure the kids are getting, and they're getting more health conscious. They're talking about nutrition. Yeah, so definitely. I mean, that's pretty much. I agree with whatever they've said. Yeah.
Okay, and Anthony, I want to tailor this question specifically to Elegant Resorts, because how do you actually create a kids menu that still has a luxury element? Or do we have gold leaf on the beans on toast? Have we got fish fingers with, I don't know, what happens there?
Well, we work with hotel partners that are, this is just what they do naturally, is they have this elevated level of F&B throughout the property. But also, prior to travel, we have a concierge team that will be contacting the clients and understanding exactly what they want to be including table reservations, particularly in and out of the resorts, any allergies, and actually we can then tailor-make an F&B package for that client in resort if they wanted that ahead. Once they're arriving in resort, we don't really have any involvement unless there's an issue.
Okay.
Very rarely there is, thankfully.
Okay, so looking ahead now and considering things like leisure demand drivers that we're seeing being developed now, specifically in the UAE, we have IMG Worlds of Adventures just announced it's going to open in August. We have the Dubai Parks and Resorts projects coming up towards the end of the year as well. How do you believe the GCC should support hotels in attracting family groups? Do we need more leisure demand drivers? Do we need perhaps more family-friendly facilities in airports? How can the tourism infrastructure there be developed to really capture the family market?
I think the answer is the sum of the parts, really. I think that you need to have a bit of both. I think one of the key things that was very interesting to hear from the kids is they don't necessarily want to be spending money all the time. Yeah. They want some activities that are maybe not quite as expensive, very conscious that going to one of these big destination resorts is reasonably expensive, and they want to have things that they can do on different days of their vacation that maybe not going to be quite so expensive. And that's the key. We need to have a very balanced view on what we can give them, movie options, options to do that are not quite so expensive.
Yeah, and that was one thing that really, really surprised me when we did a focus group, because they are incredibly cost conscious. I mean, I don't know if that's because they're given an allowance and they have a budget and they have to spend it wisely rather than just being, mum and dad's bottomless pockets. But there is a very, very it's a very mature approach, really, to what they want to do on holiday. Very mature. I
think one of the difficulties is that they can't really get a part-time job like we perhaps did when we were a little bit younger. It's a bit more difficult for them.
It's an interesting point to consider here. Yeah.
They've got to rely on their parents.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Samir?
So we at the hotel level, we're also doing something distinct. We're adding sofa cum beds just to show more value for money for the families. Okay. We even gone to the extent of introducing zipper beds. So that when come teenagers, we're able to divide that king size bed into two queen size beds. So these are little initiatives we're doing at the hotel level just to cater to the family market.
Yeah. Okay. And are your rooms charged on occupancy, or is it just charged per room? So can families, for example, put 3 kids in one room now with the extra bed facilities, or is it still charged per person?
So we have room rates based on rooms, not per person, but we have a minimum occupancy which we adhere to, and anybody extra then we charge for an extra bed.
Okay. And David,
I mean, throughout all our resorts, it's pretty much 2+2 in all our rooms. In Jebel Ali Beach Hotel, which is slightly more senior than our other product, I mean, there we have what we call family rooms, which are essentially 2 interconnecting rooms, but we've made sure that there's a small lock at the top of the door in the second room, so the young kids can't be wandering up and down the corridor in the middle of the night. But what it does also mean is that we're able to offer families 2+3, which is makes a huge difference, and we only take 50% on the second room. We've obviously done our numbers. We know what sort of inventory we have, and we do everything we can really to make travelling as a family as easy as possible. And of course, we were one of the first to introduce the whole idea of apartments as hotel apartments here. That product is fantastic with the GCC. I mean, we have 340 square meter apartments, so which go down very nicely. So when you're moving on mass, then you need that. And as Andrew was saying, it's it's now generational. It isn't just parents and their children, it's grandparents, grandkids. I mean, it's the whole thing. So you need to be able to have an inventory that can take that into consideration.
Definitely. And looking across GCC now at the parks and resorts, for example, the theme parks that we're going to see coming up, we already have a number of water parks. There are also other water parks in other Emirates that don't really kind of get the same amount of attention. But just looking again at that tourism infrastructure, what else needs to be done to really help the UAE capture that family market and make sure that they're coming back more than once?
I think something we need to look at is the visa cost. I think becomes very expensive. Somebody coming into the city when they have to pay less than $100 per person. I think that's something which deters this kind of market. That's one of the things we need to look at.
Okay, interesting.
From my point of view as a tour operator,
Is your microphone on?
from my
Okay.
point of view as a tour operator, I think the more that's in terms of parks and attractions that are in the cities or destinations, the better. And then what we can do with our clients is actually pick and choose with them what they would like to be doing. So where they might not be paying as they go, they might have done it as that whole package price before coming out. So we can put in some water parks, we can do a desert safari in this region particularly. So I think from our point of view, the more they're offering the clients, the better.
Okay, and you partner with those service providers to offer that package price for your guests?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, excellent. Roddy?
I think the new
We're awake
generation
now.
of media parks that are coming into the market now will give us a real good new sort of tsunami of media that is going to put the profile of the destination of Dubai really very extremely visible within the community of the 13 to 18-year-olds. So I think that they will start to see ads and features and social media, etc., which will then influence their communication in their family units, etc., to encourage as decision makers or influencers. So I think that for us, the key for us is to, what we've been talking about today, is to start listening a little bit more, some of the options that the hotel companies are thinking about and the operators are thinking about, to be little bit treating the market of teenagers as some sub-markets as well. So what are we doing for the 12 and 13-year-olds, and how is that different from what we're doing for the 18 and 19-year-olds? Okay. So I think the future is looking very bright for us, to be honest, with this new resorts and complexes that are coming up.
Excellent. Okay, we're coming up for time in the not too distant future. Does the audience have any questions? Our panelists here talking about the family tourism market in the GCC. Any questions from the audience? We can provide you with a microphone so that... No? We have one over here.
Hello. I wanted to ask if the concept of a hotel, if it's a dry hotel, does this affect the family market business, and if it does, how does it affect it?
Okay, so does the licensing of the hotel affect?
Yeah, we dry hotels. I think it's an advantage for us. GCC naturally affiliates with these kind of products, and our main business is family business. When it comes to school holidays or Eid holidays, the trend has been that we sort of pick up first and then the rest within the destination. So it's not at all a disadvantage. It's actually an advantage.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. If you look at the pure economics of targeting the GCC market and the number of families that are not persuaded by alcohol, it's on the higher proportion. So if for us, Time Hotels, if our market is the GCC market as our number one market, then the numbers definitely add up to support an attractive segmentation and target audience for us. So I don't think it's a problem for us in relation to where our core business is.
Yeah, no, and the same with us. I mean, hotel apartments by law cannot have alcohol accessible to the actual the apartments themselves. So they're hugely popular with the GCC, and it's the biggest market into Dubai. I mean, at the end of the day, so we have to take that extremely seriously, and it's going to continue to grow. And the interesting thing is Saudi, particularly. I mean, it's a 70% repeat business comes out of Saudi Arabia to Dubai. That's a huge amount of business. So maintaining that and keeping that, obviously one of the key ways on the family side is to offer dry properties.
Okay. Anthony, any input on?
Just from
on
our
that
point of view, we don't feature any properties that are entirely dry. Sorry, hang on, hold it like this, is that better? We don't feature any properties that are entirely dry. However, the properties that we do feature are very aware of the requirements of the different markets. So we rely on our hotel partners and how they treat our clients accordingly. So.
I mean, with the UAE specifically, if we do kind of look at our home market here as the example, there are so many different nationalities coming in. You can never have one hotel that caters to all of them perfectly. So I think the key here really is variety, its ability to adapt, and also provide those key services, you know, whether a hotel is completely dry or if you do have kind of dry areas and serving alcohol for those GCC families as well. So, okay, any further questions from the audience? Yes, can I have a microphone down here, please?
We have two questions. One is the booking channels of these families. Are they the traditional channels? How do they book? Do they book more online? Do they book through the tour operators? Is one. The second question is, what is the repeat business of the family? Do you recognize there is a higher repeat return business on the family market or not?
Yeah, I mean, certainly from a repeat business point of view, yes, definitely. I mean, we look at at least 40% coming out, for instance, out of the UK into the resort is repeat business, and it's generational business, as we were saying earlier. So we've got people who came to the resort 30 years ago and are now bringing their grandchildren to the resort. So you know, it's not just about one generation; it's about multiple generations. Sorry, the first part of your question was.
How do you receive your family bookings?
Yeah, no, in terms of booking trends, I mean, actually it's very much on a nationality basis. So the GCC, for instance, are booking very much online. Booking.com is a huge tool for them, whereas, you know, the rest of Europe, in Europe we see still predominantly as tour operator business is the way it's coming through to us. So.
Coming back to the booking, so we actually feature all sorts of, the packages for singles and families on all channels, so there's no particular booking trend as such here.
I would say that it's something that we need to consider for the future, because I think that most of our operating systems are not actually attuned to capturing information purely about family movements. So I think that we've got some work to do behind the scenes to ensure that we're tracking this sort of intelligence a little bit better moving forward.
Okay, great. We have just a couple of moments left. We have time for one more question. One more question from the audience? You're very shy today. Okay, all right, we'll leave it there. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for attending. Big hand for our panel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.